Thank you for turning to page 121. Welcome back to page 121. Today I'm going to take a look at the World of Greyhawk Fantasy World setting by Gary Gygax. This was published in 1980 by TSR and features our first real look at the Greyhawk campaign as presented by Gary Gygax. This is a very nice set that comes with a bunch of different parts inside. I'm going to show you the back of the cover as well. The back is what really sold me on this set because it gave me a good look at the map. I was running my own fantasy world at the time, just a generic world that I never really bothered naming, and saw this and saw the nice coloring and just the nice detail on the artwork on these maps, and thought, yeah, I'd been kicking around for a little while. I took my, I believe, $10 and plunked it down and bought it, got home and tore the thing open. Lots of goodies in here. One thing I do want to point out on the outside cover is all the heraldry, the iconography all around the edges. This is significant because, as you see front and back, inside is the key to it and tells you which one is which. So if you want to take a look at the heraldries, for instance, for the city of Greyhawk, we've got it right here. So it was really nice to be able to take a look at some of the heraldry and then apply it to the city. I still often will pull this guy out, show it to my players, and say, okay, just for the heck of it, here's the sigil for Furiandi. I'm going to build a little story based on some of the items in the sigil, that kind of thing. It was just nice to have, and went a lot to medieval Europe, and of course that's the basis of the World of Greyhawk for all of us. I'm going to show you next the contents that came with the pack, which start with the maps. Here's one of the two big panel maps that came inside the product, beautifully painted by the artist Darlene Pecule. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Darlene. If you're watching, I love your work. This is just a beautiful map. I've always enjoyed it. In fact, your artwork is what sold me on the product to begin with. This is just a look at one of the panels you got. These panels are huge and cover this, the eastern half of the Flanus, and then of course the other panel covers the western half. A lot of my campaign actually takes place in the western half, although I have run campaigns in the Great Kingdom and am currently running one in the county of Sundi, north of the vast swamp. So once I pulled the maps out, laid them out on the table, drooled over them for a bit, I went on to the next item in here, which is the gazetteer that has all the details of what's on these beautiful maps. Okay, next up is the World of Greyhawk Gazetteer. This was written by Gary Gygax. The idea was to give us just a thumbnail sketch of what the World of Greyhawk was and what some of the powers were in the World of Greyhawk at the time. With this publication, they started running some articles in the Dragon magazine that would flesh out different parts and give you a lot more information on the military and some of the people and some of the rulers of the area. And I may touch on that in a future video. Today I'm only going to deal with the World of Greyhawk Gazetteer itself as presented. We have the table of contents right there, plus a foreword by Alan Hammock, who was the editor. And then we come down to the map, legend and key, telling us how to read the beautiful Darlene map. We have the days of the week, the months of the year. And then most exciting for me, and one of the main reasons I was happy I bought this product, is the chronology and brief history of the Flaness. It talks about the Sulois, the Backlunish, the Flan, the Reign of Colorless Fire, and then of course the migrations after the great disasters. And then it's got just a nice little geopolitical breakdown of all the city-states. Next up, we have a little section on ancient and current languages. Actually did a group years and years ago where, like the old Doc Savage novels, Doc and his crew spoke ancient Mayan, a lost language that only they understood and could speak in front of their enemies. I did the same thing. I had the players learn ancient Sulois, and they were able to speak in front of their opposition, and no one could understand what they were saying. Coming over to the political divisions, it just gives a quick breakdown on each and every one of the political entities shown on the map. It doesn't tell us a bunch about them. I'm going to go to Furiandi, which is where most of my campaigns have been over the year. And it just tells us that the kingdom of Furiandi is run by His Pious Majesty, the King of Furiandi, who is a 14th level paladin. We find out that his name is Belvor IV, and he's a noble and just king. His son was lost at the Battle of Imirdi Meadows. That's actually a story arc that was left dangling for the players, for the DMs to develop. I did develop it. Maybe I'll show that in a future video. So each and every one of the city-states is called out here with just a quick overview of a little bit about their population and what type of rulership they live under, all the way down to the Sultanate of Zaif. Then we come to an area that I found really useful when I started DMing, the geographical features. I had not progressed much beyond a dungeon and a little town, and was excited about getting into larger medieval type cities, and also into some of the forests, deserts, that sort of thing. And this gave you at least a quick look at some of the ways you could use them in the game, some of the populations of the area. Very, very helpful for a fledgling DM. We've got the hills and highlands, marshes and swamps, the mountain ranges, the rivers, which really only just tell us where the rivers lie, as opposed to much about the rivers themselves, if they're navigable, that sort of thing. And then the timberlands, which, let's face it, most of us set our stuff in the woods a lot of the time. It was nice to have some names to throw around. Then we go into a section on royal and noble precedents and general honorifics. The idea here being you need to know what to call the knight commander or the mayor or just the knight. You know, do you call him sir? Do you call him your grace? What do you call him? So this section helps with that a little bit. At the time, we only had the local library as a resource, so it was pretty nice to have this brought in for us right there. We do have some of the orders of knighthood. Important to my campaign have always been the Order of the Heart, which takes place there in Furiandi, Valuna, and the High Folk. These knights have always played a big part of my campaign. Coming over to the glossography of portentous runes and glyphs. I actually use this section quite a bit still. If I want to pull out a rune for anger or quarreling, or a glyph to place in a doorway, a lot of times I'll just write this out and let the players take a look at it and see if they can figure out what it is. I've used these many times over the years. I've even done a couple of missives that are crudely written in these various icons. There's regeneration is that big pointed star. Very, very 70s and 80s looking, very hippie looking, but that's okay. That's when it was made. And then that continues on to the back page of my 32-page gazetteer. And then it's got the credits written by Gary Gygax, with the interior artists, and of course Darlene getting her credit for the map. The only other item that was in this set that was, again, the tremendous cost of $10 back in 1980. That was quite a chunk of change at the time. The World of Greyhawk Fantasy Figures and Minifigs. This is a little ad insert that they had in there. It's a one-page. It's very good because at the time there was no internet. There wasn't much marketing by TSR. This was the marketing. You get a good look at this and understand what stuff was available, and then you go to your local store and hopefully find it. The only set of these I think I ever owned was the Caveman set, I believe number 9. The rest of these I don't think I ever got my hands on. These are really nice. I don't know if they're available widely on eBay or any other seller sites like that. I'm sure they would be very, very costly to get your hands on. So, there we have it. First look at the World of Greyhawk, the Fantasy World setting by Gary Gygax. Great jumping off point for a world that is still thriving 40 plus years later, and very, very much the centerpiece of my campaign. I'm going to be doing a couple of videos in the future talking about the way that they've developed this further, other box sets that they did showing us the world of Greyhawk, and some of the pros and cons of those changes over the years. Well, that's it for today's page 121. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Well, that closes the book on another episode of page 121. Please leave your comments below, and if you enjoyed what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.